Hello and welcome back. I am Dr. Sharon Grossman and I am going to talk to you today about 3 ways to reverse your role as the parentified child. But before we get started, just a little note about me so you know who it is that is speaking to you. Basically, I am a psychologist, a coach, and a speaker, and I am super happy to be here with you today. I typically work with lawyers, doctors, and other professionals that work in really high stress environments. And part of what I do is I help them to get unstuck. And so today we're going to take a look at one of the things that gets us stuck, and that's these patterns that we create in childhood. One of which is becoming the parentified child. And so let's talk about what that actually means and what you can do to get out of it. So think about your childhood and when you were that really young child, if you had a parent that really wasn't very available. Maybe they were inconsistent about meeting their responsibilities. So you're this child and the parent is the person that you rely on. But if you feel like they're not stepping up to the plate when they're supposed to, you might be stepping into their role. There might be a role reversal where they're the child, you're the one taking care of them. And what happens is if that gets ingrained in you, you sometimes then take that pattern on with you into your adulthood. And even as you're an adult and they're obviously able to take care of themselves because they're 2 adults, you continue to continuously worry about them. You stress over their health. You might feel overly connected to them and feel like the worst possible thing that could happen in your life is that something happened to them. So I've recently worked with a client who was experiencing this exact situation. Her mother was an alcoholic growing up, and so she took on the role of taking care of her siblings, making sure the house was in order, and feeling really anxious about when her mom was going to be okay and when she's going to have to come and pick up after her. And now, as an adult, she's experiencing a lot of anxiety about something happening to her parents. So much so that when she talks about it, she just starts really bawling. But she said to me also, interestingly, I don't feel that way about my husband. My husband's the person who's super consistent. But when I think about something happening to him, she doesn't have that really, really strong reaction. So I pointed out to her that might be because she is in that parentified child role. And so what that means is it's like a mom who thinks about losing her child. It's just heartbreaking. And so you really start to become very emotional about it. But typically, as a child, you don't think that way about your parent. Sure, it would be sad to lose them, but you also don't think like it would be the worst thing in the world because we expect to lose our parents. They're older than us and it makes sense. It's just the way of the world. So if you find yourself in that situation, let's talk about what you can do to really help yourself balance out the equation. Really find some sort of balance in your relationship, both as your adult self and in your relationship to your parent and other people in your life. So the first thing you want to do is really just recognize that you have needs. You might have spent your whole childhood taking care of everybody else, but in that process, you tend to neglect your own needs. You're just on survival mode and you're trying to make sure everything is working great, but things are different now and you get to choose your environment. And so now it's really time for you to start paying attention. What is it that you need? And then figure out how to get those needs met. And partly what that means is that you might ask somebody else to directly meet your needs. So you need to ask for what you need from someone else as well. So meeting your own needs and asking the other person to help meet your needs both really help you. The second thing you really want to do is decrease your sense of over-responsibility. You might feel like if you don't take care of your parents, something bad's really going to happen to them, and that creates so much anxiety for you. But in reality, it might not be the case. And so you want to maybe do a behavioral experiment where you say to yourself, well, typically this is what I would do. I would call my mom every single day and make sure that she's okay, or I would worry about her 24/7 as long as I'm not in front of her and seeing her that she's alive and well. And so maybe create an experiment where you actually say, I'm not going to do that today. And then see what happens. You might even predict the outcome. If I don't do this, then this is going to happen. And see if that's true. See if that actually comes to fruition. what you will likely find is that people aren't as fragile as you anticipated them to be. So this is also something that takes a little bit of time and practice, but it's a good tip for you to try. And thirdly, and this is the one that really has the most emotional impact, you could do an exercise where you go in your imagination, you go into like a visualization of a situation that you experienced as a child where your parent was inconsistent or unable to meet their parenting needs, where you really stepped up to the plate. So go back in your mind and visualize yourself as that young child and how your parent was a mess or unable to really do what it is that they needed to do, and confront that parent in your mind. You can even bring your adult self into that image and have that person, have that version of you be there to support you and protect you. But it's really about expressing anger at that parent for letting them kind of fall apart and letting you take over, because that's what led you to this place in your life right now. And it just brings you some resolution and able to kind of shift your role and your relationship with them. This doesn't mean that you need to confront them in real life, but when you do it in imagination, it is very effective and helps you to release some of the anger that you might be feeling towards them. Even if it's unconscious, it's probably there. So I hope this was helpful. And just to recap, what you really want to do is get in touch with your own needs, the fact that you have needs, the fact that they're important, and how to ask other people to help you fill those needs, really paying attention to yourself. Secondly, what you want to do is decrease your sense of over-responsibility for others, again, focusing more on yourself, and maybe creating a balance in your relationship between give and take. And lastly, really confronting in your mind the parent who wasn't able to step up to the plate and brought about this situation for you. So I hope this was helpful for you. Leave me some comments below just to let me know if you've tried any of these techniques, if they were helpful to you, and a little bit about your story so I know who's watching, and hope this was helpful. Have a great rest of your day.